was scrolling through Twitch and I saw people talk about people, or specifically streamers. They were discussing religion, philosophy, thinking, aliens existing. And in my head, I'm like, bro, you kind of need somebody to balance out these ideas, because the people that I was watching couldn't really handle these conversations. Not that I'm smarter than them, but it was, let me show you this. Boom. It was Joe, Jason. Anyways, they were talking about, all right, let me just play it, bro, because I want to talk about this. I want to put my own input. I watched a little bit to get my little understanding, but I want to explain and maybe counter some points, maybe help with some points, you know, because I'm Christian myself. I believe in God. I'm Catholic, and this is kind of philosophical.
Are you agnostic, or you just don't believe in God?
I used to be
Agnostic is you don't know. Agnostic is you don't know if God is real, or the proof, the evidence that has been concluded doesn't convince you. So agnostic isn't a positive position of anything or a negative position. It's just the lack of belief or the lack of evidence to convince you if something does exist or not. So you could be agnostic on literally anything. It's not just specifically a religious view.
No, I've been agnostic. Like, a lot of people would say I'm an atheist. I'll just say I'm an atheist sometimes just because nobody knows what agnosticism is. I don't believe in a monotheistic.
I'm gonna be honest, I still don't know the difference. I think agnostic just means you don't know if you make a positive or negative assertion, whether you do or don't. I think atheist means you are making the assertion that you don't believe in God. Agnostic would be that you don't know if you don't believe in God, I think.
God. What that means is the three main monotheistic religions are Islam, Judaism, and Christianity. They all believe in the same God.
Whoa. I mean, I understand how someone would think that, but technically, I don't think this is correct. In my own understanding, yes, they all have the same root, kind of, the same Abrahamic root, but they do not all believe in the same God, because Christianity is specifically centered on Jesus Christ being God. Islam, Allah, it's obviously the same word for God, so it's just the creator of the universe. And then Jews, I mean, I don't know what the religion is, but it's just the Old Testament. They also reject Jesus. So if you reject Christ, then you're not worshiping the same God that Christians worship, if you understand what I'm saying. I think there's certain theology, I mean, I don't know the specific theology, certain Catholic theology, certain Orthodox theology, that kind of teach that people that worship the creator of the universe are indirectly worshiping Christ, or the Christian, the biblical God. Right? Because even though you have an idea of a different God, you're still worshiping the only true creator. Even if your idea is wrong, it's corrupted or incorrect or whatever. I think that's maybe what he was taught, why he has that view on it, which wouldn't be inaccurate, because there are theologies that teach that, or certain, you know, scholars that teach that or have that view. And I think I would agree with that, but the way he frames it is like we all worship the same God. It's not the same God. Jews and Islam completely reject Jesus Christ. So no, it's not the same God.
When you see somebody saying like, oh, fuck Allah or something, like they say some shit like that, they're cursing their own God. Like when you see somebody that's a Christian in the United States.
No, they're not cursing their God. They would be cursing the concept of God that Islam has. And I wouldn't say you should curse. I mean, you should correct somebody if you believe that they're wrong in their faith, but I don't know, being disrespectful, outright, blatantly, that's not that's not how I would handle a situation. I don't think most people should handle that situation. But I would say cursing, like if you say, bro, your God is not real, it's not saying your own God's not real because you don't share the same God. If one religion literally rejects the foundation of your worldview.
It's being basically racist towards, you know, Middle Eastern Muslim people. They're basically dissing their own God.
No, that's just not true.
They are all under
They're all the same God.
They're all monotheistic gods. Like in Islam.
It's not true, but I get what he's saying, because you're worshiping the one creator, and those three religions come from the same kind of foundation. So like technically speaking, you would, even if they have a confused mind, but I still think you would be denouncing their incorrect version. For example, if somebody made a religion and based it off the Old Testament, but said that God was actually a wooden chair, and I said, or a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian or somebody else said that, bro, F that God. You're not cursing your own God. You're cursing their corrupt view and incorrect view of that. I need water. So yeah, that was my point. You're not cursing your own God. You're cursing the corrupt view or the incorrect view that they have on your God, which I think is valid to do. Or not valid. If it's disrespectful, it's not valid. But I don't think it's inherently cursing your own God if you do that.
Jesus is a prophet.
Palestinian.
Muhammad comes after, but Jesus is a prophet. And then obviously in Christianity, you have the Old Testament and then just Judaism. And
so they all believe in Abraham being the Old Testament and all that? They all believe in the Old Testament. Is that correct?
Well, to some degree, there's a level of like, okay, this is the final word of like
I think they do all accept. I don't know. I'm not actually totally sure if they all accept the Old Testament. I think they do. Well, I'm pretty sure the Torah or whatever for the Jewish people it would be, and for Islam, I think they also might accept the Old Testament. To be honest, I think they do. I think they all base it on the God of Abraham, right? But obviously their view of this God is different, so it wouldn't be the same God. Because like for Christianity, it's the Trinitarian, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. For Islam, they reject Jesus Christ, they reject the Holy Spirit. So you can't separate that because then it's not the same God. It's a different. And for the Jewish people, I think it's just Yahweh or God. I don't know, but it also wouldn't be the triune God of Christianity.
Jewish people would say that Jesus may not have been a bad guy, but they don't believe that he was man and God, right? And then similarly, Christians don't believe Muhammad was actually, speaking to God. Whereas
No. Christians don't believe. Well, obviously they don't believe Muhammad was speaking to God, but Christians don't believe in Muhammad because they don't believe there was any more prophets after. I don't know who was the last prophet, but it was like the line of prophets ended, and then I guess that Islam said that this is actually the last prophet, but in Christianity the line of prophet ends and there's no more prophets after. So that's why they reject Muhammad. Also, like because of theological reasons, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on religion. I'm more speaking the broad, general philosophical ideas and theistic ideas.
Islam would believe that Jesus may have been a prophet or a part of the making of their religion, but not the final word, which
Islam believes Jesus was a prophet, but they reject him as God and or the final word.
would be Muhammad. I'm not an expert on Islam, so you could probably have your chatters or my chatters correct me, but I'm pretty sure Muhammad would go to the mountains, talk to God, and then he would say it to somebody that would inscribe it down, and that's where you get the Quran.
So oh, my bad. You go.
So why I was gonna ask, why don't you believe,
In God?
the three? And you say you're agnostic.
Yeah, I think why most people don't believe in God is because they don't see the evidence as proof to them. They don't see any reasonable, just their idea of evidence or proof doesn't match with the idea that religions present. I think it comes from a fundamental worldview aspect because like religions claim that there is evidence, there is context, there is justification, there's proof. But obviously people that don't believe in miracles or God or the divine mind or divinely inspired text are gonna reject that evidence and not consider it evidence, right? So I think it's based on your assumed worldview already that you have, which kind of dictates what you believe in and what you don't. Because if you just reject the idea that miracles could happen, it doesn't matter how much evidence there is, you're not going to believe in the divine, in God or anything, because you already hold that assumption. And if there's an atheist out there or an agnostic that believes that miracles could happen but doesn't believe in a specific religion, that person would be more likely to agree with the evidence present. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's kind of like that. I would say I think it comes from your assumed worldview, and if you don't believe that the evidence justifies what you justify as evidence, or that the evidence proves what you think evidence should prove, then you're not going to believe what the evidence is trying to tell you about the worldview.
Agnostic is believing in a higher power, right? But not believing in specific.
No, that's not agnostic.
Oh wait,
Jason,
no,
that's not.
agnostic is
Nah,
just
bro.
not believing in God at all. Oh shit.
No, that's atheists don't believe in anything.
Oh, that's atheist. Oh, I'm tripping.
Agnostics.
Wait, so what's
It's
agnostic?
just it's unknowable.
They don't know, so they're refraining from choosing.
Exactly.
Oh, I thought agnostic was believing in a higher power, but not like. Specific.
You could be an agnostic theist. You could be an.
Dude, I'm asking questions, chat. Like I'm learning, bro.
Wait,
like,
so Joe, since you're agnostic, that means you don't believe in the afterlife. Does that mean, is that the reason you don't fear death?
I do fear death.
Really?
Why would
If you're agnostic, why would you fear death? I mean, I don't really understand that question.
you say? Is that the reason I don't fear death?
Because I thought I seen a video.
In the eyes of Christianity, you don't truly die because your soul.
You go to heaven.
You're well, ideally, but
yeah, I mean, of course, yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, 100%.
Well, ideally, yes, but you would. Yeah, I don't believe. I think when you die, that
I don't know too much on this topic. I'm very basic when it comes to theology or philosophy, but why, besides maybe like biological reasons, brain chemicals firing, why would you fear death as somebody who doesn't believe in God? Isn't it just another state of atoms, chemicals, material? Or is it just the fact that our neurons in our brain are triggering our nerves or something to make us feel scared. But death is ultimately meaningless, no? Not saying that this is the worldview every atheist or agnostic holds, but I would have to know the worldview, so I'm just assuming here. But death wouldn't be anything different than, just matter decaying. There's no inherent meaning, right? Unless an atheist or agnostic believes that there is an inherent meaning to life and the world, or is the meaning what you make of it. But if it's the meaning what you make of it, you're subjective, then objectively it still would inherently be meaningless. I'm just talking right now. I'm very dumb in this
I
situation.
don't think there's anything.
Like just dark and black.
No, not darkness. Everybody always goes
Like-
like darkness because then you would still be having perception. Sleep with no dreams is what I think death is like.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So just yes.
you
sleep.
just
But
cessation
does that
of
not?
existence.
That's scary. That's scary.
Wouldn't that still be a positive view on what you think there's because you could not think that there's an afterlife. Wait, but would like resurrection and then like things like that fall into the idea of afterlife? Maybe I don't know what afterlife means. Let me search up what afterlife means. Afterlife. This might be a dumb question, but if you don't believe in the afterlife, but you have a positive view or a positive assertion that there is no afterlife, wouldn't you still have to kind of provide? I don't know if he said this. Maybe I'm just making things up. But wouldn't the answer, if you're agnostic, wouldn't the answer be, I don't know if there is or isn't an afterlife? But I think he said, I think there's nothing. So technically he didn't make the assertion that there is no afterlife. But if you do say that there is no afterlife, you would also have to prove that in some way, shape, or form, which is the most interesting thing to me about philosophy and evidence or whatever, because if you make a positive claim and you don't prove it, you are actually like cooked to most people, I guess, to most people that require evidence. And then you have to prove why your evidence means this and why not. And then people argue and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's
Why-
scary, but that doesn't mean, in my eyes, just because it's scary. Like, I can't believe in an afterlife because I can't make myself believe in an afterlife.
But religion is
But if you can't you don't believe in an afterlife because you can't make yourself believe in an afterlife, but you believe in no afterlife that you can make yourself believe in. I think what people need to get at is you have to get at the root of people's worldviews, because I bet if somebody asked them, why do you believe there's no afterlife? His answer would probably be there's no proof or there's no evidence that there is an afterlife. But that doesn't assert that there isn't an afterlife. There could be something else. Maybe humans don't die. Maybe we are infinitely living creatures and blah, blah, blah. We're in a simulation. We wake up and we're actually in Mark Zuckerberg's office in an experiment virtual reality or something insane, right? You still would have to get to the substance or the bottom of their worldview of why somebody would believe there isn't an afterlife. They would still have to, justify that with claims, reasons, evidence, or whatever. Maybe I'm thinking too much or thinking wrongly, but I think that's how it works. Maybe no, it doesn't.
faith. It's believing in what you
Yes, but it's
see,
faith based
correct.
off reason within your own mind, right? If you are a faithful Christian, you think that it is logical enough to make that step to where, yes, there's not definitive proof, but there's enough that sways your hand to where you go, I can believe in this. I, in my mind, don't.
What is definitive proof though? Like what is there definitive proof of? Is there definitive proof that we exist? No, that's why philosophy is a thing. Is there definitive proof that truth is real or that murder is evil or that you should respect this No, that's why. Is there definitive proof of gravity? Is that a theory? Like there's no definitive proof of anything, right? This is all just based, like he said, it's logic, reasoning, using philosophy, using text, divinely using evidence to justify your worldview, maybe using different types of philosophical or logical arguments that say, oh, this kind of makes sense, it sounds coherent, therefore I believe it. But there isn't definitive proof of anything. I think kind of people make the mistake of faith and then proof and kind of putting them at each other. Like when people say, oh, religion is faith, people's internal like mind or assumption is that there's no evidence for it. But then if you ask somebody that doesn't believe in God and you ask them, well, he might be on some, bro. I'm spitting. If you ask somebody that doesn't believe in God, for example, what is truth? Where does morality come from? Where does logic come from? They would say, well, you literally can't prove logic, first of all, because it doesn't exist anywhere. You can't look at it under a microscope. You have a faith-based worldview that makes sense. And where does truth come from? What is truth? Is there one truth? There's people that believe that, oh, mine's the truth. Oh, this is the truth. But if there's one truth, then where is the truth? Is it a physical, material piece of, but then you would have to find evidence for that. And there's no evidence that a piece of truth exists in the world. So everybody has their own faith-based worldview, and claiming that one view is faith and one view is proof is just your assumed worldview of what you consider proof. Facts. I know, bro. I know it's facts.
To where I can take that step.
So the only way you would believe if you could see it, or if there's definitive proof.
No, I would need a flawless reason-based argument that God exists and that the afterlife is real. Because that's why
Bro, I feel like I'm going way too hard at this, dude. But the reality is, to get somebody to believe something, what they mean is they would need evidence that they believe, that they consider evidence. For example, people that don't believe in God, or the most arguments I've heard of people that don't believe in God is usually, obviously, I can't see him. Oh, it doesn't make sense. Oh, there's not enough evidence. Oh, there's not enough proof. Oh, this, that. Oh, this is evil. But this is all under their assumed worldview of what they consider evidence. Because, like I said before, if you don't consider miracles to be possible and someone considers miracles to be possible, the evidence that can sway either two of you is going to be completely different. If you consider evidence only material scientific experiments, then the evidence that you're going to take as real is going to be different evidence. And then what you have to do there is kind of justify whose structure, whose baseline for evidence is the right baseline for evidence. And then you could find the truth. Maybe your definition of evidence doesn't match mine, so we have to find whose is more coherent. Because at the end of the day, bro, what can we find evidence of? You know, even evolution. I mean, I think most people were taught evolution. I would say I believe in evolution. Maybe. I don't know anything's real no more. But with evolution, we learned that animals, or we came from cells, turns of frogs to fish to monkeys to people. But the scientific experiment for that can't be done, obviously, because the theory is over millions and billions of years. A fish doesn't turn into a human in an observable timeline that we exist in, where we could observe it and do the experiment ourselves. It's assumed. So, and I'm assuming most people that reject God would believe that, and that's a faith-based worldview that doesn't have the material evidence or scientific method done to it. And then you would also have to get into, how do you know the scientific method is the right method to finding evidence? People would say, oh, it works. Oh, but how do you know something works? My definition, it's crazy.
Say, I'm not an atheist, right? Because I could believe that a God exists. I don't think heaven and hell are real. I don't diss anybody that does. I respect everybody's beliefs, right?
I agree with that.
But personally, I don't like. Faith is the strong belief in God or the doctrines of a religion based off spiritual apprehension rather than proof.
Spiritual apprehension rather than proof. That's what I was just talking about. People assume, look, what he means by proof, this is no diss to him, because we all have our own assumed worldviews. So we're all going to disagree at the fundamental level. But what he means by proof is a scientific experiment or evidence that this is real, not a divinely inspired book that, you know, tells us the truth about the world or how we come to exist. That's not what he considers proof. So he expects, or somebody of this worldview would expect you to present them proof that coincides with their baseline for proof. But how do we know that your baseline for proof is the right baseline? Which kind of makes the whole idea of proof subjective. Because what if my idea for proof is different than yours? So whose is right? That's what we have to figure out, right?
So you're seeing, right, the Bible and these things, and
but I do think there is,
right, and I respect that
hold on,
belief.
let me
But
pause this real
similarly,
quick. I do think there is philosophical and logical arguments for God. I mean, I can't recite any. I mean, obviously the basic ones like the uncaused cause or whatever, and the biblical ones. But those people that already aren't in the faith would reject. But I also think it's hard to. I don't know, man. I think the best one I've heard is the idea that knowledge and logic and argumentation, conversation itself can't exist without God. Because how do you justify the idea that you have knowledge, this thing that, or truth or logic, this thing that doesn't like physically exist in the world? Where would that even come from? And if we just make it up, then that itself is changing and not invariant. Therefore, it's not coherent. It's illogical. Because if logic was changing and just made up, and it could change tomorrow, then the world could just not exist. You feel me? Like, I don't know.
I can't force myself to believe that. So what would make me believe in that? I have no idea. But not anything that I've seen.
So, okay.
How do you feel like the world was created then? If there was no God or anybody to like place it there, you think we just like spawned?
Well, then I mean, there's a lot of arguments on. Well, you see that as what makes sense. I would say the Big Bang created the universe. What was before the Big Bang?
So you believe in evolution?
Just endlessly, yeah. Most Christians, most modern
What created the universe? This is like the argument most religious people kind of use as well. What could have created the universe? Do you think it came from nothing? I mean, yeah, to me, it doesn't make sense that the universe came from nothing, but I'm not sure if that's a foundational reason why I believe in God. You know, I would even have to look into the reasons why I believe in God, because truly, there's too many reasons in my head that I wouldn't be able to list them out in a, organized line. But I would say that to kind of be on the side of or to kind of try to be unbiased, even though I have my own worldview, I would say that that it wouldn't be wrong to say that you don't know how the universe was created. I think that would be the more logical agnostic or atheist position, because just because you don't know doesn't mean it's not true or it's not false or this exists or this doesn't exist. I think you could say that, but the idea that it came from the Big Bang, obviously that's the leading scientific theory, but where did the Big Bang come from? Did it always exist? And if the universe always existed infinitely, how does that work? So a criticism of that I've heard, there's a contingency criticism of that it could change. I don't understand that one. I have to look more into it. But this was probably even worse. But I've heard that if it was infinite, then how would we get to the point we are now? Because if it's infinitely going, but we're in the present, it's like a limit in calculus, that like the limit of one or something. I don't know how it is, but it ever gets closer to the number, but it never reaches it. So if it's infinitely, it wouldn't ever get closer to the present, but it would never reach it. So it would be impossible for the present to exist, or something like that.
American Christians believe in some form of evolution. Even if it's microevolution, like they might not believe in like we came from, single-celled organisms, but like most American, at least I'm saying American Christians because those are the Christians that I obviously interact with. Most American Christians would believe in some sort of microevolution, like that creatures can evolve.
No, yeah, I believe in evolution.
Yeah, evolution is not like a disprover or like a problem with the Christian, Catholic, Orthodox, any of the worldviews. I don't think any church or any or most denominations have a strict kind of view on that, because it doesn't really change the truth of God in a way. Like, it's important, sure, but it doesn't center on Christ, the Holy Spirit, the Father. Like, I think it's just something else that doesn't really matter as much, even though it doesn't matter.
So,
I would probably say evolution. I would agree with evolution. I don't
my chat
know.
was like, you don't?
It's not really that
Ask me a question,
serious.
but, like, I can't ask questions.
The evolution argument to me is not a faith-based argument. So with that, I get a little more.
Evolution is not a faith-based argument. Bro, there's no scientific method proving that an animal like a fish turned into a human. It's literally impossible to do. The theory itself tells you it's impossible to do by asserting that it happened over millions and billions of years. Not saying I don't believe in it.
Like, people could perceive.
It's highly plausible. I would
when
say,
people
sure,
say
I
they don't
believe in it.
Evolution, I can get a little more, not rude, but like that's not a faith-based argument. That is like scientific analysis
Proof.
of our, anatomy, seeing what you have and what you used to have, what we came from, fossilizations, and you can literally see the progress of animals evolving over time.
No, bro, it's a faith-based argument because there's no way to prove the theory, because the theory assumes that it happened over millions of years. And calling something faith-based doesn't make it inherently wrong. And I don't think there's anything wrong with having faith. We all have faith-based arguments. The theory of evolution centers on the idea that we came from this animal, this fossil proves this, that it shares a link between this, and eventually it leads up to humans, right? And the scientific method, I don't know off the top of my head, but it wouldn't be possible for an experiment to prove that theory unless we lived for billions of years and had that contained in one experiment, or we were somehow able to speed up that entire process and put it in one experiment. But no, it would literally be impossible to do that. Therefore, we have faith based on the evidence provided, based on the theories concluded, based on the justifications asserted, that it makes sense. And let me put it like this. If no humans existed on Earth and we looked at a crust of the Earth or a fossil of an animal and bones of humans didn't exist, they wouldn't. Point is, there would be nobody to interpret that evidence. It would just be matter. It would just be atoms. So it's not like, you feel me? We interpret the evidence based on how we already view the world. We already have assumptions about the world's age, about how rocks form, how fossils form, how this forms, how this should work, how that the world is logical and consistent, that nature is logical and consistent, that the world isn't just gonna explode tomorrow morning, that we're gonna wake up tomorrow, the sun's gonna rise again. We all have assumptions that we based our worldview, and that's how science works. it literally sets foundations that can be proven, called like axioms or something, and then it works from there. That's literally fine to do. I don't know why we're acting like faith doesn't exist in anything else.
Okay, I got.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can
yeah.
Was
change
that the end,
topic.
bro?
I can
That was
change the
interesting to
topic,
hear.
alright? Joe,
wait,
Was that the end of their
I-
convo? Let
I
me see.
feel like he was asking. You can't control a lot of the things that happen in your
Yeah.
life. You can only control how you perceive them.
But what if you want to control them? Like, we're human.
You
We
can't.
want to,
You
but we
can't.
want to.
The
Yeah,
universe shit
Humans-
just happens.
Humans want control, and so that's where you even get into the, if you want to go back to the religious argument, the God of the gaps. When you don't understand something, the logical thing is to presume that God
God of the gaps. You know, that's actually another interesting. I think some people do that a lot. Bro, it's hard because I'm not the most intelligent person. But let me just kind of summarize what they were talking about first, because I heard him say something about you can't control what happens to you, only what you perceive. You can't control what happens to you, only how you perceive it. I don't know what his worldview or what any of these people's worldviews are, because these two guys are just asking questions and Joe over here is answering the questions. But under many non-religious, or maybe all non-religious worldviews, the idea of free will, the concept of free will, that you could choose what you want, that you have your own choices, doesn't exist. It's kind of more determined based off, you know, something that happened before, or a cause, something happened to you as a kid where you grew up, this, that, whatever. So even the idea of stoicism, that you could choose to perceive how you perceive things, wouldn't make sense, because it wouldn't be you choosing how you would perceive it. It would be what caused you before that's forcing you to perceive it a certain way. So I don't know, but maybe in a determined world, that's how it works. But I don't know, like any other worldviews, I think in a world with free will, stoicism would make sense, because you would be able to choose how you react to maybe losing your house, getting foreclosed, losing a girlfriend. But in a determined world, you would just be determined to be sad about it, or be happy about it, or determined, you know, something like that.
that place because it solves it, right? Like a lot of things are unsolvable, but those unsolvable things are all solvable by God, right? So that's where you put that. Like if something happens to you, you don't get why it happened, you couldn't control it, you go, well, God has a reason for it, right?
Sure, but I don't think that's what God of the Gaps is. I think God of the Gaps is more like, we don't know where the earth came from, so God created it. Or we don't know how this dinosaur exists, so God created it. Or we don't know this, so God. It's not something happened to me, God must have a good reason for it. You're already in the religious worldview at that point. That wouldn't be God of the Gaps. But God of the Gaps, I would also kind of reject the idea of God of the Gaps, because from a fundamental level, I think, I mean, something of it implies that it's an unjustified perspective, right? It works, therefore, God of the Gaps implies that it's a unjustified reasoning. You just put it in there to make something make sense. But that's kind of how foundations work, axioms work, science works. You assume something so the rest of the worldview is coherent. You know what I mean? You assume the laws of logic work so the rest of the worldview is coherent. You assume, you know, contradictions aren't possible. Like I'm a human and not a human at the same time, so the world makes sense. I think that's. I mean, there is like valid criticisms for God of the Gaps where people just insert God and it doesn't really solve anything. But yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
I
That
gotta-
was my
I'm not
question.
saying that's what I think, but that would be like the religious
No. Yeah.
idea of it. Is like God has a purpose for everything happening.
Yes, I got a topic that I think you would be interested in. Because you talk about it a lot, and Yuki, I feel like this is an easy topic for you to pitch into, and me as well. Aliens. You like to talk about are aliens?
aliens.
Real, right, Joe?
Yes. Well, aliens. What alien are you asking me? Are
I like how I just inserted myself into this Discord call like I'm part of it, bro. I'm not part of this. I just thought it was interesting to hear and I wanted to talk about it. Are aliens real? I mean, I don't know, right? I mean, maybe it's possible that they could exist. Maybe not. We haven't found proof. We haven't seen aliens. So do I believe in aliens? You know, probably not, to be honest. I don't. Maybe they exist out there, but probably not. Also, I think when people talk about aliens, they're specifically talking about, you know, like intelligent life, not like a single cell that's on uranium. Or uranium, is that a planet? No, like on Neptune or something, or a plant that's found in Pluto. Like, I think when people talk about alien life, I do believe there's alien life, like multicellular, like little freaking like maybe like a little plant or a little cell in water or something. Sure, that's plausible. That makes sense. But in aliens, highly intelligent species, you know, I don't know, probably not. I think to believe in that, you would also have to have faith that it's possible because there's literally zero proof for it. So it's a faith-based worldview or a faith-based view that you find reasonable based on your assumed worldview already, which I think is completely valid to have an assumed worldview because we can't prove everything, right? It all comes from what we previously believe in.
Like intelligent aliens, real or
Like, you believe in aliens?
yes. I think it's
You
crazy.
believe there's extraterrestrial beings out in the universe?
Then why
Yes.
haven't they tapped in with us already? If they can overpower the government, if that makes sense. Picking up what I'm throwing
the
out.
universe is huge.
Yes, but at some
Wait, hold
point,
on.
you gotta understand. Like, if
all
a UFO is real, right?
all biological life that would grow, all biological life that we understand, that would be intelligent and multicellular and capable of, creating things and, cross galaxy travel would be susceptible to the threats of space like us.
Before letting him finish his thought, 'cause I just want to. He said something about he was very confident that aliens existed when there is zero proof or evidence materially for aliens existing. Not saying it's contradictory, but I don't know. Why would somebody, is it just more reasonable that aliens exist? I feel like somebody could just use as argument for God, no? The universe is so vast and large, God must exist. Isn't he saying the same thing? Oh, the universe is so big, we're creatures, aliens must exist. I think that's just an interesting argument, bro. But I think if I'm being more charitable and try to understand this from a agnostic view, I guess, I would say the worldview comes from it's more probable for aliens to exist than not. Therefore, I think they would believe aliens exist. That would be a probabilistic argument that's not based on any evidence or proof that people would usually believe in. But then again, somebody could just assert that about God now. Like, it's more probable that God exists since we're so intelligently designed, or you can't have logic without God, or the universe must require a creator. Like, you could have just assert all types of things based on probability or something. Therefore this thing. Blah 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 blah. Therefore God, blah 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 blah. Therefore aliens, right? Because there's no evidence that people would typically accept, which I find kind of interesting how you would reject one thing based on the lack of evidence, but you would accept another thing based on the lack of, I don't know.
So they would send robots and other things like us. And then even then, to be able to have a civilization that's intelligent and stay alive long enough without dying to something or killing each other, and be able to then go tens, hundreds, if not thousands of light years away, that takes millions of years, right? Yes, the universe has been yeah.
So you don't
actually,
think you don't think there's
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with holding that belief, right? Because I mean, it makes sense, I guess. But I think being so confident, yes, aliens exist. The universe is so large. It just doesn't make sense how you would be so confident in a worldview or in a belief that has no evidence, but so confident in not believing another belief that has no evidence. I get, people have not even that actually, because I understand how you could reject another worldview that has no evidence, but how you wouldn't like understand what, like, okay, this could make sense. I don't know. It's just maybe my brain's too dumb.
Alien in our solar system.
I think on like Mars, they're underground. There could be like very rudimentary like life, but not intelligent life. Now,
An intelligent life, you mean like
intelligent life
us.
meaning like us, like capable of manipulating the matter around them to change their lifespan for the better, create things that don't exist naturally in front of them.
Okay. Well, I don't believe in aliens.
At all.
I don't believe in aliens.
Why? Are you just...
I think either of those worldviews makes sense. I would say, yeah, I don't know if I believe it. I would probably say no, I don't believe in aliens, because I don't know. I don't believe in aliens. I don't think I need that much of a compelling reason. It doesn't make sense to me that there's logical life or something, more as smart as us, creatures that haven't same thing that everybody else says. I don't know.
Saying that to rage bait because the way that you're putting your hands together are like.
No, actually, like, bro,
No.
Jay, if you don't believe in it, you believe. It's like, for example,
Well,
that's what I'm saying.
I don't believe in aliens.
Why would UFOs be driving around and not tap in?
UFOs though, Yugi, that's
Like-
man-made. That's a man-made theory.
It is.
It is.
But well, like the idea, the modern depiction of UFOs, a misrepresentation of a report that some guy made about a flying object, and that's where you get UFOs. But
bro, I kind of want to just create a crazy ass looking drone and fly it across like a random ass city in New Mexico and scare them into thinking aliens are coming for them. Is that a good idea or no?
You're saying you don't believe in you don't believe that life exists outside of Earth.
I believe in that life, like solar system out in the universe, but I don't believe in aliens.
Intelligent life. I think intelligent life doesn't exist outside of Earth, like humans, which I think that's a valid perspective. Same way I think it's valid to assume that maybe it's possible that aliens do exist.
As intelligence as human beings to be able to
You don't think there's anything
have
that has
a
the
system
intellectual...
like the human race.
You don't think anything's on par or above us?
No, I think humans are actually the smartest creatures in the world.
I'd have to
in the
disagree.
universe.
I'd have to disagree.
Why do you think that?
Because like you said, I mean, I'm the type of person I need to see proof of something to believe it. And aliens, people, they picture aliens as these smart, intelligent creatures, but if they're so smart, why haven't we?
See, I think both of these individuals have the same, when they talk about proof, I think they have the same standard of proof. Is this like evidential sense data? Can I touch, feel, smell, hear, see it? And I feel like you should be able to comprehend very easily if somebody has that assumed worldview, why they wouldn't believe that aliens exist. Me personally, I wouldn't say I have. I mean, for science specifically, I agree that's a necessary condition worldview, and it makes sense. It's consistent. It proves things about science, about freaking beavers or whatever it needs to prove. But I don't think you need to have that about everything. But for them, since they have it about, I would assume everything, then it makes sense why he wouldn't believe in it. But I'm just confused why he is agnostic about God, but not agnostic about something else that also doesn't have any sense data proof to prove it.
Life of aliens or
well, I'm not confused because I understand why somebody would believe it, but I think it's just interesting.
Aliens, something like that.
It's like Ghost.
No, it's not like Ghosts.
Yes, it is, because the paranormal is technically the afterlife. How is the afterlife able to come in contact with us, but not a living organism like an alien?
We're talking about something that's religious and okay, these are two separate conversations. One is a non-physical thing that we are debating that is outside of our dimensional reality, right? Like if you're talking about ghosts or like non-material beings, that's different from talking about aliens. The proof of aliens or that alien life is possible is the fact that you're having this fucking conversation with me right now.
The proof that alien life is possible. He didn't say the proof of aliens, which makes sense because that wouldn't be proof of aliens. The proof that alien life is possible is the fact that we are having this conversation. Interesting. I need to hear more.
You're alive, Jason. Right?
I could argue the same thing about religion, though.
No.
Yes, you can. He said the proof of aliens is the fact that we are alive, the fact that we currently exist. Bro, that's not any evidential sense data proof. That's just, because we exist, maybe other life could exist, therefore aliens. Somebody could say, because we exist, something must have created us, therefore God. Because we exist and we're so smart, that means we were created by God. Because the universe exists and we exist in it, God. Because we exist and we're naturally against evil, God. Like, you feel me? Like, maybe he doesn't see this in his own worldview, that you could say the same thing about another idea such as religion or God, but I don't know.
No, you can't. All right, then do it.
Okay, then do it. Yeah.
Then do it. Then you don't, like, you're just reading the chat, like, you know what I mean?
No,
you're not being serious. You're not being serious.
I'm not. there's an argument that you could make of our existence to somehow prove that God exists, but that has not, like, it's not the same thing. Like, you existing is different, right, than what I don't.
But it's not though. I think this is actually the end of the video. Yeah, I think this is where the video ends or the segment ends. I would say it's you could make the exact same argument for both. I mean, obviously, some people are not going to be as convinced because, like I said before, of our assumed worldviews. But if you say, "Oh, we exist, therefore," I think he was going with the fact that we are this complex biological human that evolved from this in this earth that happens to be in this zone where it's sustainable and it could hold multicellular organisms. Therefore, with a universe that's so big and vast, it could create the same thing could happen. But that's just a faith-based assumed theory with no proof, which is fine. I completely agree. It's fine to have, but you reject and you don't understand how someone would believe in something else that has the same standards and how that argument would work for religion, which is I don't understand because you could, like I said, we exist, therefore we are intelligent creatures with a consciousness. Science can't explain consciousness, therefore God. It's like science of the gaps, aliens of the gaps. Nah, I'm trolling, bro. That was the end of that freaking segment. Holy, our little segment. That was freaking insane. I enjoy talking about that. I'm not the smartest person on earth. Hopefully I didn't make myself seem like I was trying to be so smart and like I know everything because I don't, but I just thought it was interesting to talk about. But I felt like I was critiquing one person because only one person was giving their entire worldview and the other person was just asking questions and learning.